We were doing a film on Reichstag in '95, 2 years before the World Trade Center had been attacked. We had a little bit of private conversation about who did the first World Trade Center bombing.
The FBI had an informant in among the terrorist group on the World Trade Center car bombing February 26, 1993. And Salam, the former Egyptian officer, 43 years old, was commissioned by the terrorists, he was one of the terrorists, to put the bomb together for the bombing of the World Trade Center. And he went to his FBI superiors. He said, "We're going to use a dummy bomb, aren't we?" And they said, "No, we're going to use a real bomb."
Well, Ted, wasn't this guy a terrorist hired by the United States government, hired by the FBI? In fact, did they not, in fact, give him monies to buy the bomb which went into the World Trade Center?
He was an informant for the FBI against the terrorists, and he wore a body mic on their instructions when he met with the terrorists. And unknown to the FBI, he wore a body mic when he met with the FBI. And fortunately for him, otherwise he probably would have been prosecuted himself. This came out during the trial, and it appeared in the October 23, 1993 New York Times, this information I'm telling you right now. And so he was told to put the bomb together by the terrorists. The FBI told him, "No, we're going to use a real bomb, we're not going to use a dummy bomb." And the FBI not only furnished the ingredients for the done and knew in advance that they were going to bomb the World Trade Center car bombing with the car bomb, they furnished the ingredients for the bomb.
Well, this was a sting operation, wasn't it?
Sting operation, yes. But nevertheless, sting operations can go down without using real bombs. There were 6 people died in that bombing. I think 1,000 people were injured and $500,000 in damage.
$500 million.
$500 million?
$500 million.
And there's just absolutely no excuse for this. But that's all part of the ploy by the government, this covert government criminal enterprise. I call it rogue government criminal enterprise. It's all part of the ploy by them. After that, of course, the car bombing of '93, Oklahoma City bombing, and then 9/11, and then all these terrorist acts were designed in order to set up Homeland Security, pass the Patriot Act, and take away many of our constitutional rights and civil liberties.
Now, the Homeland Security Act was put together on the same line of thought as was done in Nazi Germany after Hitler's people burnt down the Reichstag. So they passed the Enabling Act, and our Homeland Security Act is in fact the Enabling Act. In fact, they're even using some of the same words. So we're talking about setups. This year from the FBI, you know how some of these guys work now. So are you telling them that this is an inside job, and these the whole terrorist operation happened when Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman's terrorists were literally given passes, visas, to come into the United States? The State Department they give out the visas, don't they? So if they give out the visas and they're known terrorists, and then they infiltrate the terrorist operation with Ahmad Salem, a former Egyptian army officer, this whole damned thing was by design.
Absolutely. The whole terrorist movement is by design. As I said, the whole terrorist movement is by design to set up Homeland Security, pass the Patriot Act, take away our constitutional rights. It's all on the drawing board. It was on the drawing board. The car bombing of '93 was just the first step. There weren't enough people killed in order to pass it. So then they had to come along and have Oklahoma City. I think there were, 168 people died.
Yeah, children too.
In Oklahoma City. And at Dayton Nursery there, the ATF agents' children were not in the nursery that day. And Oklahoma City bombing was not by a fertilizer bomb. That's ridiculous. Fertilizer bombs are used to blow up stumps in the back of the farmer's yard. This was by a bomb known as electrohydrodynamic gaseous fuel device, otherwise known as a barometric bomb. The barometric bomb was a highly classified bomb by the government, designed by a CIA scientist named Michael Riconosciuto, and manufactured by Hercules Manufacturing, Silicon Valley, California.
You're talking about a daisy bomb?
Well,
Is that what they call it?
yes, I'd say you could say a daisy bomb. I think that's one of the words for it, but I call it a barometric bomb. And this is so powerful, it was tested in 1982, but one of the scientists, one of the technicians died, another one was seriously injured. The barometric bomb was used in Oklahoma City. Now I gained access to the contract number of the barometric bomb through a science magazine, and I wrote to Picatinny Arsenal in New Jersey, where they keep the contracts, which are public source information, and asked for that contract of that bomb, and they came back and said there was no such contract. Yet I had the contract number available to me, and I've since written them again, and they still claim there's no such bomb available. But there was such a bomb, because I personally know Michael Riconosciuto, who developed it, and I have personal knowledge and visited the Hercules manufacturer in Silicon Valley. So that was all part of the master plan.
And Lee Harvey McVeigh.
Lee Harvey McVeigh.
Lee Harvey McVeigh. You know,
Lee Harvey Oswald.
He was a government agent.
Lee Harvey McVeigh, actually Timothy McVeigh, wrote a letter to his sister when he was in prison, and told his sister he'd been recruited by the CIA to work on the assassination squad for the CIA, and also to work on the CIA drug operation.
Now the CIA, of course, is the enforcement arm of the CFR. I'm taking a look at the death dumps that are flying over here. In fact, we did a thing right in the park here in Los Angeles. And in the background, there were death dumps. There are death dumps over us today.
Just like the air of Auschwitz.
This is Easter Sunday. They don't let up. This is the day that Christians, like myself, celebrate the birth of Christ, the rebirth of Christ, and these people are trying to kill, maim, destroy, sicken the people of the planet, right?
That's right, absolutely right. It's all part of the master plan. And then, of course, after Oklahoma City, we had 911. And by the way, going back to Oklahoma City, Terry Nichols, who's co-defendant with McVeigh, has filed an affidavit in the U.S. District Court in Salt Lake City, claiming that Larry Potts, number 2 man in the FBI, was the person who orchestrated Oklahoma City. Larry Potts.
Number 2 man in the FBI. I call it the FBI, my friend. We've been friends for 35 years, and when I first met him, I said, my mother introduced me. I said,
I was in the FBI at the time.
He was head of the FBI at the time. In 1995, Ted and I were talking across from each other in front of a camera, saying that I don't want to put words in your mouth. What did you say?
We're going to have another terrorist attack.
Tell them.
I said I predicted another terrorist attack because the Patriot Act did not pass after Oklahoma City, and therefore they needed another terrorist act in order to get it passed, which they did, and which occurred, 911. And then we have the Homeland Security and the Patriot Act passed by Congress. By the way, the Patriot Act was originally written under the George Bush Senior administration, and one of the women authors, the Department of Justice attorney, said that people would have to be killed before this passes. Well, what happened, as you know, 911 people were finally killed, enough people killed that it passed. Now, the original bill had been reviewed by the Judiciary Committee in Congress and approved, and at 3:45 a.m. the morning that it was to be voted on by Congress, George Bush Jr., Baby Bush I call him, came in and slipped in the current bill that was passed, which was not read by the Judiciary Committee. So what that means is that the members of the Congress passed the bill without even reading it, thinking that the Judiciary Committee had approved it.
Well, there was a Vietnamese communist.
Vietnamese communists wrote the bill.
That's what was supposed to protect you, right?
He was
that bill.
He was a Department of Justice attorney.
This is Hitler's law the Enabling Act, transferred into English, of course. There were some minor changes, but essentially the same thing. Not to protect the people, but to enslave the people. Not to give them more rights or to protect their rights or your right for anything, but to take it away. And we were having this discussion in 1995. And we were saying, yeah, I agreed with him. I said, yeah, this thing is coming. Damn, they're going to do it again. And then I was on September 11th. I got a phone call from you. And you said, they've done it. They've done it. We were expecting it for 6 years. They did it. And then I said, I'm on it. I'm in the studio. We're editing it now. I said, what editing? I said, yeah. I was picking out clips and we're editing that night. That night. We did Illuminati 911. Oh, is this Illuminati-like? Absolutely. Reichstag was burnt down.
They blamed it on the communists.
Right. And then they took on the German people. That made Hitler the Führer, right? He gave them what this government and the FBI has given you. Are they screwing us?
Let's put it this way. They're taking all the steps necessary in order to take over our country. Understand that recently there's a bill that's been introduced in Congress that anybody says that 911 is an inside job could be prosecuted. What about the First Amendment to the Constitution, freedom of speech? What's going on here? I mean, any congressman that would even think of introducing that bill, has got to be a traitor to our country and a traitor to the Constitution. That's just part of the bill. That's just part of what's going on. This whole thing is orchestrated. The New World Order has orchestrated the destruction of the middle class. That's the backbone of America, the middle class. That's the strength of our country. And they have destroyed it. They're working overtime to destroy it. Going back to 1996, when they established GATT and NAFTA, companies moved out of the United States, allowed traffic to come into this country from Mexico, allowed drugs to come in. Drugs are being poured across the border by the truckload right now because of GATT and NAFTA. These Mexican semi-trailers are coming in loaded with drugs. And our government is allowing it to happen. It's destroying our country, a great country that we had, the greatest country in history, and they're destroying it.